Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of ParaMindful. I'm your co-host Melball. Over there is Alex, and down there is Karl. Karl, how are you doing today?
I'm doing very, very well. How are you?
Hey, I can't complain. We're getting close to the end of the new year here, and we
The
are
end of the
getting
old
into
year.
new year, old year, whatever,
You're
whichever
getting
year.
to the
Alex,
new
how are
year.
you doing today?
I'm doing really well. I worked lots and lots and lots and lots. So I decided to take the day off because I have a head cold. So
Oh, wow. We all survived the holidays, it looks like, and we are here to give you a little bit of a taste, a little bit, a tidbit, maybe. Give me another analogy, guys. I'm running out of analogies.
a snippet.
There we go. Of what our year is going to hold for us. We have decided to share with you something that we are kind of interested in and holding some interest in, and we are planning on doing shows on all of these topics sometime throughout the year. So, without further ado, Alex, you are the most excited to share your topic with everybody. So, we're going to give you the stage first. Alex, what was your topic?
I can't go in depth all the way in this one because it is deeper than hell. So
Ooh,
um,
that's pretty deep.
it's got some potential. I decided to go for what is colloquially known as the Valley of Mystery. And I mean, there's an actual name. So, the Nahanni. Oh, I wrote it down. It's the Nahanni National Park Reserve of Canada. So if you look, I mean, I'm sorry for the Americans, but if you know what British Columbia is, just go there first. The top, the top right-hand corner of BC touches the Yukon and Northwest Territories as well. So if you go to from that point and you go north, you'll find it's like a huge valley. It's a national park. The national park is pretty impossible to get into um, unless you have a float plane. I mean, you could obviously hike, but I mean, good luck staying alive. Um, and then you can also do whitewater rafting in it, but that only takes you to certain places. Um, so yes, it's a cool place. That's it. That's all I had. No, I'm just kidding. Um, okay, so what I have is I have the Nahanni National Park Reserve of Canada. It lays within the boundaries of Northwest Territories. Even though you go from the corner of all of them up, it's just the way it's formed. Anyways, so the real only feasible way to get into like the heart of it and everything is by float plane.
This isn't a plane. This is a canoe with wings.
Well, then get in and start paddling.
You can do the peripheries and the rivers, obviously, by boat. So this place is absolutely massive. So it covers 30,000 square kilometers, and I've done the math. It is 11,583.06 miles squared. It's a national park, and it's also a boreal forest. So good luck landing a plane anywhere besides water. Um, so a little bit of history, I guess. So this national park was a popular route to go to the Yukon when people were like mining for gold during the Klondike and all that stuff.
Mhm.
However, there were people who actually went there to mine for gold, and there was some people who said they made it rich, but there's no real proof. So they say, while no significant quantities of gold were ever found in the Nahanni Valley of Mystery, that didn't stop people from trying anyways, which is where the interesting part comes into play. So I have a couple examples here. So 1908, there were two Métis prospectors. If you don't know what a Métis is, Google it. Because now the meaning now is not the meaning of what it was back then. The meaning of what it was in this story is half French European, half Indigenous Canadian. Nowadays, it's actually its own. I don't call it a race. It's not a race, but you know what I mean. Anyways, group of people. Anywhoosums. Um, so yes, 1908. Sorry, a little sidetrack. There was a guy named Frank and his brother William. Their last name was McLeod. They were found headless.
You didn't hear? Decapitated. Whole big thing.
So you think, okay, well, that's bizarre. So then they started digging into it, and they found that these two brothers had gone to the Nahanni Valley to prospect for gold. And they never came back, and people were like, what the hell's happening, right? So eventually they were found. Their bodies were found on the banks of the river, of the main river that goes through it, the Nahanni River. And their heads had been cleanly severed, so not like ripped off by a bear or something like that, but their bodies were just laying there headless. 2 heads missing, never found. So, the murders were never solved. Dun, dun, dun. Obviously, it's 1908 in the middle of the bush. Nobody's ever going to figure it out. However, things start getting a little bit crazier. When so this one was a little bit iffy. Like we know it happened, but the timeline is in between 1910. It's either 1910 or 1917. I read articles, like I went through like newspaper articles from 1947 that say it was 1910, and then ones that were newer that said it was 1917. So we'll say 1914. There was a Swiss gold prospector by the name of Martin Jorgensen. He was also found dead, laying in the ashes of what once was his cabin in the middle of the bush, where you had to hike in and build the cabin and all that stuff. Here's the kicker. Old Martin was found with no head. Cleanly cut off. Head missing. Don't know who killed him. Which is bizarre, right? I mean, that's 3 heads missing right now.
Mm-hmm.
So he was effectively 1 foot shorter than when he unless he died by getting the head cut off, he was one foot shorter than when he died. It gets weirder. 1945 rolls around, and there's a miner. He's looking for gold as well. Keep this in mind, the gold portion. He was found dead in his sleeping bag with no head, cleanly cut off. So it's weird, man. So they were saying that there's a whole bunch of like stories like this where it's been proven they found the bodies and things like that, where the heads are missing and they're clean cut and everything. We'll get back to that. I'm gonna just keep going on with a couple more creepy things, and then I'll delve back into what they say is happening. So by the late 1960s, there were roughly 50 people who had just vanished. So people who had gone in there to excavate or excavate, that's not the word, whatever, prospect and all that stuff, and go visit and everything, because it's apparently a super, super beautiful place for the people who come out alive. Here's where the head thing comes into play, and what I find interesting about that, besides the fact that people's heads were taken and they're never found. The name Nahanni actually comes from the Naha people, but these are what would have been indigenous people of the area in the Nahanni Valley, so that's where they got their name from, or that's where it got its name from, I should say. They were a mountain-dwelling tribe who lived in the region many, many moons ago. We're talking hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. But they disappeared, much like the Aztecs. There's no record, they don't know how they disappeared. They're just gone. However, the Naha were a very violent tribe, and they would do raids outside of the valley to other indigenous tribes, and they would take heads as treasures. So that I found they're like war trophies, right? Like the whole creepy Vietnam thing, which I find very, very bizarre. The other thing that gets me is how similar but yet still different this place is to all the missing 411 places. People vanished without a trace, which is, I mean, there's records of like children, like there was an 11-year-old girl that just disappeared. And I mean, okay, maybe she went to the bush or whatever and just, got lost, got eaten by a bear or something, but The fact that people still keep disappearing, I find that very, very puzzling, and I find it very intriguing.
Mhm.
The people who were eventually found um, have all said that they felt a huge, overwhelming fear and a feeling of like absolute terror, as well as this like um, this feeling that they're being watched, but like it's super, super intense, making them want to run away. Does that make sense? Like they think
Mhm.
something's behind them, and they're like, "Oh shit, I gotta go. I gotta go. What? I don't care what's this way. I'm gonna go this way."
Very
So
similar to how people would feel that panic in Hoya Bashu, right?
exactly right. Exactly right.
Mhm.
So I got little goosebumps on me right now. Anyways, so what else do I got here? Oh, sorry, I'm looking at the wrong page. I have a whole list of cool things that I'm trying to like pare it down as I go because there's just
Sure. Yeah.
Can't give them everything.
exactly right, and I don't want I want it to be a teaser, but like
Mhm.
I don't know, something like just kind of lures them in, and then they sort
Mhm.
of fall
Mhm.
down the I don't know, rancor pit or something. Worse. Any whoosums. Um, Obviously, there's stories of Sasquatch. So, for people who don't know, Sasquatch is Bigfoot, but it's like the indigenous Canadians' word for Bigfoot.
Mhm.
I mean, it's also possible that they're two different animals. Possible humans with fur. Who knows?
2022, we don't judge them.
Exactly. You wear whatever facial hair you like. There are very numerous accounts of mysterious lights floating both above the trees, in the trees, all sorts of things, which also reminds me of Hoyabashu. Um, Lots of UFO sightings, which I find also kind of intriguing. Um, but you thought that was strange. I got more for you. So the the southern portion of the Nahani Valley. So this place, like I said, is massive. So it's like 200 miles is what we're going to consider the southern portion. Um, the land is riddled with hot springs. So I think like all the things that I've read up on it, I've clearly never been there because do I want to
You're
die?
alive.
Exactly. I don't want to die. But by all accounts, it's a super misty and a super foggy place because of all these
Mhm.
hot springs. The other thing that's often said is that it barely ever gets to the point of freezing because there's so much heat coming up. That's how many there are. So it's like geothermal, kind of cool, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Um, but the cool thing is these mists don't really go away. They kind of like move around a little bit. So it's
Mhm.
like things can hide in the mist, right? I don't know if you ever
Mhm.
saw that movie Gorillas in the Mist. Don't. Um, sorry. It also promotes growth of trees that are not normally in the taiga.
Mhm.
So, for what people don't know, the taiga is, I'm assuming it's an indigenous word as well, but that's just what I learned in school. It's like, I think the Americans would call it the boreal forest, I think, where it's like,
Okay.
yeah, anyways, it's trees that don't normally grow there in,
Mhm.
so I mean, like, I don't know what species of trees, but it's just by
Mhm.
all accounts there were trees growing there that shouldn't be growing there because the temperature is different and the soil is different and it's warmer, and et cetera, et cetera.
Hmm.
Yeah, so I thought that was kind of cool, right?
Mhm.
Now, when I say valley, I don't mean like a little valley. This thing's like gorged by, it's like a giant thing. So it's like imagine giants digging it because the cliffs are twice as high as Niagara Falls. So we're talking like 1,500 feet are the cliffs at some points, which is insane when you think about it.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, if you also look at it the other way, it could be 1,500 feet deep. So you decide how you want to look at your glass. This is something that might get you, Mel. There are
Mm.
expansive cave systems of
Mhm.
limestone
Yeah.
cave systems. Um,
which is just bad mojo in its own.
Yeah,
The limestone is just
just don't ever play with limestone.
This girl made that mistake once. Never again.
Yeah, don't go anywhere with limestone. Um, Here's another thing that really got me kind of like digging deeper. So the article that I had read from 1947 kind of mirrors the article that was read, certain portions, that was written, I think it was 1980 something. Anyways, um, they had indigenous people who had gone in there to hunt or whatever they were doing, and that when they would come out, they would draw pictures of these bizarre animals that they had seen. And the pictures that they had drawn look remarkably like mastodons. So much so that they have also found mastodons in the area, like not living, a little mastodon like that. No, they found mastodon bones, mastodon tusks, and things like that in the area as well. So there's rumors of living prehistoric animals, I suppose.
And that was recorded. I just want to make sure that was recorded back in the 80s, 1980s.
So the first recording of it, like the first article I read, was from 1947, and they were talking about it, and it had
Okay.
happened closer to 1947. Like it wasn't that long ago, and then they
Oh.
basically had mirrored it in this second article that I had read to kind of like verify some things. They had
Okay.
mentioned it as well, and they didn't mention they had read the 47 article. So
Oh,
take it with a grain of salt, obviously, but
right.
um, so it gets a little bit crazier, and I'm almost done, I swear. Um, think of this place. It's kind of like a little oasis. You know how like you would go in the desert, whatever, you would find like a spring, and then you would find trees growing, green, lush stuff. That's like this place. It's apparently super lush and all that. Like, yeah. Anyways, the people. So the running theory is that there are still the Naha people, or the derivatives, no, ancestors, whatever, of the Naha people still living in the mountains, in the cave systems and things, protecting gold. So this place is considered to be the El Dorado of Canada. People go in hunting for gold and they never come out. So once you start poking around and digging into tunnels and things like that, you don't come out because you probably lost your head. And that is where I'm going to keep it. There's many, many more stories, but I've already eaten up, what is that, 20 minutes or something? So, but it's just like every corner, every page I turned was just more information, and like stories that weren't like, obviously you have stories like, oh, we heard that there's whatever pterodactyls or Tyrannosaurus rexes and stuff. Okay, sure, maybe, probably not.
It's all
But
lore.
what's that?
It's more lore than anything.
Yeah. And then there's ones where it's just like they're credible people. Like they had sent in, it was like army engineers. I don't think it wouldn't have been army back then. It would have been Royal something or others. To like try to get some sort of layout of the land and draw maps and things. And even they had seen things. So it's not like these people were coming up with stories to sell to somebody, right? They were legit soldiers who had seen something and they reported it, right? So that's where the stories come from. It's not somebody who's like, oh, I'm going to go to the National Enquirer and say that I saw a whatever, a four-headed dog or something, you know? So
And it's interesting as you were like sharing some of the information, it kind of triggered a memory in me that a lot of the things that you were saying actually are very, very similar to also, is it Superstition Mountains in Arizona? Have you guys heard of that?
no.
It's outside of an old ghost town. Ghost Adventures actually investigated it.
Okay. I just
I
like
think the
place. I have heard of that.
town was called Goldfield. It's where they actually saw the ghost of the prospector and stuff there. And
Yes.
they had, I guess people were looking for, again, the gold or the cash of the lost Dutchman in that area. And I just was trying to check real quick because I know I had heard that there had been deaths up there. I just couldn't remember if they had been found without their heads as well. But there's also been talks of the Superstitious Mountains with the lights and the UFO sightings as well. and that it's actually highly recommended by local officials and stuff that you avoid going to the superstitious mountains and hiking even in the area. So
I
it's
would,
very.
do you know offhand if it's like limestone mountains? I mean,
If
we
you
could
guys
always,
want to converse, I can.
I'm just kind of curious if you knew it offhand. I can Google it later. It doesn't really matter, but I'm just kind of curious because you always hear of like the crazy paranormal stuff happening over um what is that beeping noise? Anyways, I don't know if you guys can hear that, but
Nope.
it'll stop. The like
Ding, fries are
limestone.
done.
What's that?
I said, ding, fries are done.
Oh no, that's what it is. No, it's not fries. Oddly enough, I am baking, but you won't believe what I'm baking if I told you. It is a type of South American wood called purple heart.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Oh.
the resins inside the wood turn really dark plum purple when they're heated up. It'll do it naturally as well, but I speed up the process by putting it up in the oven and then it heats it all the way through, so it's purple all the way through. So yeah,
Nice.
yeah. So I'm probably gonna hop up for 2 seconds just to shut off the stove, but
But yeah, limestone, like
yeah, it's really
limestone is
cool.
just, it's a very interesting thing. And it's something that two of the biggest, when we talk about paranormal things that have happened, two of the biggest things, limestone and renovation or construction work. Right. And even those two things sometimes go hand in hand, which is yeah. So it'd be interesting.
It's kind of like quartz, right? Holds energy and stuff. And
Right.
for those who know what a piezo igniter is, like a piezo spark igniter for like a barbecue or whatever, that's quartz as well. It's just very interesting the stuff it can do. I will be right back.
So
Mhm.
I found on here that there is not actually limestone, but it is a formerly volcanic area. And a lot of
Okay.
the rock there is composed of welded tuft, which is volcanic ash cemented under extreme heat, breccia, which are rock fragments cemented together with lava or welded tuff, and then granite, dacite, basalt, and some conglomerate. So there's actually no limestone in it at
Interesting.
all.
That's
Yeah.
interesting. I heard while I was going, so
There's no limestone. It's
yeah.
just a
So
volcanic area.
maybe no
So the
limestone in the
volcanic area might actually be sort of what connects it there too, because you mentioned the geothermic kind
Yeah.
of environment there. This was a formerly volcanic thing, which would be essentially a former magma chamber.
right.
Yeah. Interesting. Interesting. So we're probably going to be having that episode sometime within, I would say, probably the summer, maybe spring. Moving on from here, we have a topic from Karl. He hasn't shared with us yet. So I'm excited to hear what it is that you're bringing to the
Yeah.
table, Karl.
Before I share it, I will
Mhm.
let you know that it has something to do with something in camera view right now.
Ooh.
Carl's
Ho,
childhood.
ho, ho.
What else do
Ho,
I have?
ho, ho.
It began, the inception of this entire thing began in 1955.
Mm.
Something absolutely spectacular happened.
Are we talking
So the
paranormal or?
Yes. Well, not then, but this was the beginnings of it. Without the
Oh.
beginnings in 1955, we wouldn't have what's going on now. The big question that I ask is, do ghosts haunt the happiest place on earth?
Oh shit!
Ooh.
Right?
Disney.
I love it.
Disney.
Oh, I like it.
Yes.
I like it.
Excellent twist. I would never have guessed this in a million years. Okay.
Right? I love Disney. I love everything
Same.
having to do with Disney, Disney World, Disneyland, the parks, everything, right? But I figured this is something that can really open up for us for even just like theme parks. Because
Oh, yeah.
there's so many different water parks, there's different like Six Flags, there's different like so many other theme parks that are out there
Right.
But why not start it with the biggest and the most important? Without Disney, I don't know that we would even have theme parks
I
as
think
we
you're
know them today.
probably right. Also, this also might open us up to a future road trip. Just saying.
Right?
Somebody wants to pay us to go to.
Only at Halloween season.
What's that? Sorry.
Only at Halloween season.
Only when.
At Halloween season.
Why am I frozen?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
Go, I'll just sit looking weird.
I don't know. Maybe it's
Okay.
George.
You'll catch up.
So creepy.
Buffering.
I don't know. Maybe I don't know. I don't know. That is weird. 1955.
Little ironic. Little
Right?
suspect. Don't be suspicious.
Disneyland.
Don't be suspicious.
Right?
So now we can't see what's happening behind Alex. So
Oh, there we go.
yay.
He is back.
Yeah, that
So
was
whatever ghost was viciously assaulting you during that time, I don't know if you are aware.
I was getting smashed in the head by an invisible guitar.
I'm
So
just going
Karl,
to
we were
say
talking-
thank you, Walt. We'll continue and be respectful.
My apologies. It was really bizarre. Like the timing on that was weird because like
Right?
like my internet
Little
connection is
suspicious, yeah.
phenomenal and all that stuff. So it was just very, and it's weird because like I just touched the microphone, and like you guys could still hear me, and it just
Oh, yeah.
and I just froze. It's cool. Anyways, go on.
Energies. Different energies. How much
Oh, it's
limestone you got around you?
Hopefully none.
Mm.
I'm living on the swamp, man.
So Karl, when
yeah.
we were talking about Disney, like
Mhm.
what and the hauntings at Disney, do you have any an example or so that you could share with us about what you're thinking?
I have got a few.
Oh,
So I'm just going to kind of give some of the more notable ones.
for sure.
So Pirates of the Caribbean or Caribbean, however you want to say it, I don't care. The attraction was being built. During the time when it was being built, there was a construction worker who died during the process. His name, just known as George. We really don't know what his last name is, but we know his name was George,
That's sad.
right?
Mhm.
After he actually died, the cast members actually began to see odd things that were happening. There would be lights going on and off on their own. So just kind of themselves in a way to kind of appease George, they would just acknowledge and say, "Good morning, George," or "Hello, George." And they would say, "Goodbye, George." They would just announce good morning and good night to him. That's it. That's all
That's
they would do. But they still see some different things from time to time happening, like the ride will just shut down for no reason.
I was on it once
Um,
when I did that, to be honest with you.
Mysterious phone calls will actually come to the control room, which is completely empty.
Wait,
And
empty?
pardon me?
What's empty? Sorry, the control room you said?
The control room, yeah. The control room is empty, but there'll be phone calls,
coming
from, yeah,
I was like, how do they know that the phone calls are there? I got you. Sorry.
right? And then there's even a slight apparition of who they assume to be George being seen on the monitors. At times, riders who are a little bit more skeptical have actually shouted that they don't believe that George is real, and they mysteriously end up being stuck on the ride for a very long period of time.
Interesting.
Right?
That's what you get.
Could it be coincidental? It could be, but I doubt it. I doubt it.
No,
So
that would probably not be coincidental. No.
then you've got other different ones that are kind of maybe like urban legend that could maybe be delved into a little bit more. But this one here is a ghost story that is about a woman named Regina Young, or known as Dolly. So Dolly actually fell from her seat while riding the Matterhorn at Disneyland
Yeah.
and was killed when she was struck by another oncoming bobsled.
I had read about this one too. Yeah. But
Eee.
I didn't
Yeah.
know like that much. I just know that she had fallen out or climbed out or whatever it was, and then interesting.
Yeah. Apparently her seatbelt had unbuckled.
Mm,
We don't know if she actually undid it herself or if it was a result of something else.
right.
But even
George.
to like these days, right, George? Damn it, George. Even
I
to these days, some actual cast members claim that they have felt like someone was watching them during their walkthrough of the ride because they have to always walk it and make sure that everything is all good and safe. Um, so when all of that's done at the end of the day, the area on the track where um, she died, they kind of like feel
right.
different things, right? So they've actually affectionately called it Dolly's Dip,
Okay. Well, I mean,
Mm.
it's morbid, but I mean, it's um, at least it's kind almost. You know what I mean?
right?
Yeah.
Like she's never
Especially.
forgotten, right? She's not that, oh, that chick that
Mhm.
right.
Right.
But I will also say to your point where I'm frozen again. Look at this George guy. Your point where you say they have to walk it.
Mm-hmm.
If you've ever been to Disneyland or Disney World or whatever, and this is so bizarre. Um, if you compare that to like going to like like not a sideshow, but like a carnival or whatever,
Mhm.
the quality is unbelievable. There's no racking back and forth of your roller coaster or anything like that. So like
No.
I will give it to them that their safety is like priority number one for them. And so
Mhm.
when things happen like this, I imagine that it's like it doesn't just obviously it wouldn't just affect the person who passed away, but like
Mhm.
probably like there's probably a lot of like negative energy, like oh shit, I can't believe this happened, blah blah blah. That is
Mhm.
just kind of like
Oh yeah.
100%. 100%. Very
So you
interesting. And yeah, you're absolutely right. This opens us up to be able to talk about amusement park hauntings. And then Disney, it doesn't just have, what was that face?
I said Knott's Berry Farm.
right.
No.
There, it's not even just that there's like one Disney World. There's like Disney World, Disneyland. You got Disney World in Europe. You got Disney World in Japan. You
Right.
know,
Hong Kong and Paris. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So it's like,
Yeah.
wow.
And that's why, I kind of just open things up and then we can,
Mm,
maybe give us an opportunity to look at some of these other ones that are outside of North America. Right.
mhm, mhm.
If you indulge me for a moment, I have just one more that,
Of course.
you had talked about, kind of the morbidity of that last
Mhm.
claim and last story. Well, I'll get a load of this one. So Disneyland, California. Legend has it. Legend has it
I know where this
that a little boy's mother spread his ashes
is
in the haunted mansion without getting the park's permission or approval to do so.
going. Right.
Haunted Mansion is my absolute favorite ride at Disney. I've been to
Mine
Disney
too, man.
World.
Mine
I
too.
love it.
It's brilliant.
Mhm,
Right?
It's older,
mhm,
but it's
mhm.
brilliant.
Right?
One
Just
of my
just
best
how they've
friends'
done everything when
ringtone
you can
is the
look down
intro.
at the table and they're all dancing around like, "Oh my god,
Yeah.
it's just
Like
so
like
good."
you spin around and like the mirror shows the dude sitting beside you. Like it's
Right?
brilliant. Brilliant.
Oh, I love
And then
it.
Mhm.
plus that elevator at the beginning that you don't know you're actually in an elevator.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. Oh, it is insane. And even just before you get into, right? Like you're walking the
Mhm.
pathway and you've got all the tombstones that are out there and just the big hearse and the ambiance. Oh,
I will
Yeah.
also give that to Disneyland. They make waiting in line far more interesting than it
oh
could
yeah.
ever be anywhere else.
Yeah.
100 queue lines are
Yeah.
amazing. You have
Like
just as much fun.
right, but
It's
you're
true.
waiting, but at least there's things to look at. You're not just like in this like corded off. I mean, there are portions where it's just corded off, but like Splash Mountain, for example, you're going through a mountain.
Right?
Yeah.
Haunted Mansion, you're going through a cemetery. It's really cool. It's really really
Yeah.
cool.
Mhm.
And even Pirates of the Caribbean, you're in what's that? I don't remember what part of the park it's called there, but you're walking through. It's basically like
Adventureland.
is that where it is? Yeah, you're right. So it's like New
Mm.
Orleans, right? Kind of feel.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then you're
Yep.
walking through, but if you pay attention to the walls inside, Pirates of the Caribbean, you're seeing things that were there for years that they've worked into the movies. Like there's Captain
Mhm.
Jack Sparrow, and there's, you know what I mean? It's really, really cool.
Mhm. Mhm.
So
Mhm. I
you
actually just recently was on that ride too,
Just
oh,
like
got
right
back.
before
nice.
COVID happened.
That's that's not recent. That's a long time ago. No, I'm just kidding.
Hey, I mean, I'd like to forget the last 2
I
years.
know. It's just it's been that long, but it's been that long. Hey, it's crazy.
Oh, you're
Yeah.
right. Road trip.
Sorry, I didn't mean
Right?
to
Go
cut
to
you
I
off there.
Disney
I'm
no,
World.
just
no,
really
that's
excited.
okay.
It's
That's
hard for somebody to understand how cool Disneyland is, or Disney World for that matter, if you've never been. So
Mhm,
by all means, if you can go, go.
mhm,
right.
mhm,
Because like I said, it's not just the ride that's awesome, it's
mhm,
everything. Like
mhm,
the park is divided into little areas, whatever, like Toontown or whatever it is. So
mhm.
everything's based off of that.
Yep.
But then it's little things like even the garbage cans are designed as like what would fit in that world, or
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And it's little things that you would never expect and never read or never whatever, and you just happen to be walking by and you look at it, oh shit, I never noticed that before, you know? I think it's really, really cool. Like it takes so much forethought to be like, we're gonna put this here, put this here. But also they change the rides around sometimes. You know what I mean?
Mhm,
Yes.
Like Pirates of the
mhm.
Caribbean, I've been to Disneyland probably about 7 times. 7 different vacations, I should say. I'm not rich. I just it happened. Um, and I think maybe it's changed 3 times in those 7 times that I've gone, but it's phenomenal every single time. You know,
Mhm. They were actually renovating Splash Mountain when I was down there 2 years ago.
actually.
So it was
Okay,
actually closed, you couldn't go on it at all. But
interesting.
they had, updated like, I remember the first time I saw Pirates of the Caribbean, Jack Sparrow didn't look like Jack Sparrow,
Right, right,
but now he's been switched over to the
right. And
Johnny
that
Depp one.
that makes sense because he is now Jack Sparrow. That is,
Yeah.
when you think of
He
Jack
is
Sparrow,
synonymous,
yeah,
yes.
you're not thinking the dude who was painted on the wall when I was a kid. But that reminds me, um, I actually had the opportunity to talk to somebody who was a former Disney employee, and there's some validity to the ashes. Apparently, people often
Oh,
do that. So that's kind of creepy
Yeah.
in itself because somebody has to clean that up, you know? But
yeah.
the last time I went to Disneyland, was it Thunder Railroad? That
Big
crazy
Thunder. Yeah. Big
Oh,
Thunder
that one's
Railroad.
fun, my mom
is it
loves
the
that
Thunder
one.
Railroad?
Yeah. Big
Thunder
Thunder
Mountain,
Railroad.
isn't it?
Whatever it is, Thunder something or other, was closed.
Oh.
As I freeze again here because I'm going to talk about somebody dying. Unreal. This is so creepy. Anyways, then I stopped. Okay. So what had
I'm
happened
scared about
was,
what I'm gonna talk about now.
but if anybody knows anything about that railroad or that roller coaster, it's insanely fast.
Mhm.
And obviously he fell off and he died, but it was being investigated. It was being investigated for, sorry, it was my second last time there. It was being investigated for like a year and a half, 2 years, and it had just reopened the week that I had gone there the last time that I've been to Disneyland. So
Oh, wow.
yeah, because
Wow.
like obviously people were suing people, but it's like it wasn't Disneyland's fault because you know what I mean. But I don't know how
Mhm.
the lawsuit went about, like how it ended. But so I'm like, there's the deaths that happen there. I mean, besides people maybe having a heart attack that we never hear about or whatever,
Yeah.
they're pretty brutal if you think about it. Like Matterhorn is that's a huge, huge ride, like tall height wise.
Yeah.
So you can only imagine like how far she fell or whatever. You know what I mean? Like it's just
Mhm.
yeah.
Mhm.
Anyways,
Mhm.
sorry, going on my tangent again.
Well, and you're right because they do take such care and concern about the health and safety of their public, probably because they don't wanna be sued. So
100%.
when something does happen, it does tend to be, like, over the top
Yeah.
brutal because they have taken such care and concern to ensure that
And
safety.
I think that's
Right.
also they have the right to print money. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
every day they're making a bajillion dollars.
Yeah.
And so sparing say sparing $500 million a year. I have no idea what the actual number would be, but just for safety alone saves them $5 billion worth of lawsuits, or
Mhm,
you know what I mean? So
Right.
mhm.
you pay a dude whatever minimum wages or whatever maximum wages, to walk the rails once a day on the Matterhorn, or twice a day, or 8 times a day, whatever it is. That is peanuts compared to the lawsuit that you would be paying if he had not walked it, right? So
Oh yeah. It's
Mhm,
so true.
mhm.
sorry, I find it very, very
Yes, it
interesting.
is.
And like I have nothing but awesome things to say about Disneyland, so
Oh, me too. Yeah.
I love Disneyland. Like I come from a long line of, like, my parents aren't huge Disney fans. Like they're not like Disney freaks with like movies and things and like tattoos of Disney and stuff like that.
Right.
My dad, every birthday that my dad has, they try to go to Disneyland. Him and my mom, they go to Disneyland. Like it's just really weird. It's very, very strange.
It's awesome.
Yeah, my dad's whatever 67, I think. Still going to Disneyland with my mom.
I love it.
He's been in more times than I
I
have.
mean, my dad just told me he's gonna be 70 right away, and I'm like,
That's
"You've
insane,
been
hey?
going on these roller coasters with me well into your 60s?"
Your dad does not look a lick over fucking, sorry,
That's
fork
the
and
military. It's the
yeah, but he doesn't look
military.
old though. That's what I'm saying, right? Like you would expect the military to like make you old fast.
They found those, Fountain of Youth and those Eldorados. They're just keeping them
Yeah,
quiet,
just
right?
50 years in the military.
So if you guys are ready, I would be happy
Yes,
to
please.
share,
Sorry, I didn't
my
mean to go
little
on a whole.
tidbit. So I
I get
wanted
really
to play
talky. I
this
apologize.
into what was that, Alex?
I said I get really talky, so I apologize.
It's okay. That's what we are. We are a conversation about
Yeah, I get
spooky-ish.
really excited. I'm like, oh my god, I got this story. You know, feel free to mute
So
me
I
sometimes.
wanted to
I'll just
play
listen.
in to the topic that we're going to be bringing up in February, which is going to be Ed and Lorraine Warren. We're going to be going into their origins in the beginning of February, and then, or sorry, yeah, in the beginning of February, and then our next episode is going to be about several popular cases that Ed and Lorraine talked about. So I wanted to maybe pull a little something different and maybe create a little conversation among us, and kind of, instead of talking about Ed and Lorraine, maybe talk about the three things for or sorry, the one thing that the three topics that we picked all have in common. So you guys remember we picked the Amityville horror, so the
You
Amityville
totally
house.
froze when you
We
said
also
that.
picked,
That was the creepiest thing.
yeah, we
When you
have
said the
the
three things that I'm assuming the word was in common. I'm assuming, but like it just froze and you just froze and there was a
oh,
couple
we're
and
having
like
some weird technical issues, man.
sorry.
We only got 15 minutes left, spiritual stuff. Let us get it out.
So three things in common is what you said?
Yeah, so we have the three cases, and there's one thing in common among the three cases.
Besides
So
Lorraine?
we have Amityville, we have the Perrin family, which is what the movie The Conjuring was based off of, and we have the famous Raggedy Ann, creepy looking doll, Annabelle. And the one thing that I found in common based on these three things that we picked is that all of them involve some kind of possession, whether it be a spiritual possession or a demonic possession. And so I looked up some stuff on possession in general. It says that a spiritual or demonic possession is an unusual or altered state of consciousness and associated behaviors purportedly caused by the control of a human body by spirits, ghosts, demons, or gods. That one concerned me a lot.
Gods. Interesting.
Yeah, it's one thing to be controlled by a demon, it's another to be
Interesting.
controlled by a god. Um, what's interesting is that, I obviously we knew this, that possession is not something that's just based in Christianity or Catholicism, but it actually goes across Buddhism, Voodoo, Hinduism, Islam, Wiccan, South Asian religions, South African religions, and as well as North American traditions. So, depending on the cultural context in which the possession is found, possession may be considered voluntary or involuntary and can be considered beneficial or detrimental to the host. Um,
Okay.
Something that I noticed now, then thinking about this even further, is that you can see examples of possession kind of thrown in television, movies, video games. I don't know if either one of you guys played the Dragon Age series,
No.
but there was they investigated this kind of um spiritual possession in Dragon Age. At the end of the first game, you could download another kind of adventure where you met the character Anders and Justice. And Anders was a mage, and Justice was a spirit of justice that had inhabited the dead body of a soldier, because the spirits can't exist on our plane without a host. And by the second game, you find out that Anders has actually allowed the justice spirit into him. So now both his spirit and this justice spirit are almost combating for control of Anders' body throughout this game. It's very interesting that they just kind of throw that so casually into, everyday life, almost normalizing it a little bit. Um, but studies have found that alleged demonic possessions tend to happen surrounding trauma mostly. Which, when I look at that, I'm like, maybe I agree with that, but maybe I don't necessarily agree with that, because you see a lot of demonic possessions are the downtrodden, and the people who are in situations where of hopelessness, we'll say. But like, how does that explain children, if children are being possessed? I'm obviously, there's going to be some children who do experience trauma, but what about the children who don't experience the trauma and then are suddenly finding themselves in
Yeah.
spiritual battle with something? Or like, people of faith, we find, people who really believe in God and go to church and read their Bibles and do their prayers. You find that these people are also very easily susceptible to
Right.
possession also. you
I
know
didn't think about it, but you were talking about like positive and negative possessions, but like
mhm,
I never thought, first of all, I never knew it could be a god per se, you know what I mean?
mhm,
Right.
But I also like put a negative connotation to the word possession, but you're absolutely right. You could be whatever, say it's a patron saint, for example, right? Like
mhm,
he did whatever and God gave him or his God gave him, or her God, I guess, gave them the ability to do whatever, right? Like Saint Francis of
mhm,
Assisi, he could talk to animals, So
mhm,
that's
I
interesting.
I kind of take the positive, or kind of more in the light of like, you have some of those more jovial churches that are out there, and they'll start speaking in tongues.
Tongues, yeah.
They're praising and they're speaking in tongues, right? Like
mhm,
that would be a possession as well, I think,
Yeah, I
right?
just
mhm,
But that's
mhm.
more of a positive and not a
yeah.
negative.
But it's just when I hear possession, I think automatically I go negative.
Negative, yeah.
Yeah.
But it makes
Uh,
sense because there's no opposite, there's no positive form of possession. It's just possession.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, a godly possession that could be positive, though, is if you're that David, and in that David and Goliath situation where suddenly, this godlike individual takes control of you and enables you to triumph over your Goliath. That could be a
One
positive
might say
one.
that he was just really good at hunting with the sling. Just
Really
saying.
good at throwing rocks at the right places.
Hitting people with rocks.
But like, what I was gonna say in regards to the people of faith, it makes me wonder what exactly is the protection that the faith is offering. Is it like voodoo, where you have to like believe everything explicitly will happen to receive that protection? Um, so yeah, it's a very interesting situation with the possessions anyway. um because like with the situation with Amityville, the idea was this, I believe it was the son who was said he was possessed by something, and murdered his family, and then
Yeah,
said
was it
thing tortured
DeMeo?
the family that came after.
Last name was DeMeo,
Yeah,
and it was he killed.
DeFeo, wasn't it?
DeFeo, sorry, not DeMeo. DeMeo was a mobster. DeFeo.
Yeah.
I mean,
Close enough.
but no, you're
Yeah, I
100%
think it was the
right.
oldest son in the
Yeah,
DeFeo family.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. But it's like that was obviously a negative possession in that situation that led to Ed and Lorraine being involved in this
Right.
investigation. And this was actually, I believe, was this where they got that really famous picture of the little girl
I was just
standing in
gonna
the
say
doorway?
that's creepy. That picture gives me the heebie-jeebies every
Yeah,
time I
she's
see it.
very solid and got very
Yeah.
creepy eyes. It's the eyes that bother me about that.
See, and
Because
it's
is
just
that the child spirit, or is that the thing showing itself as a child? Is the
right.
child possessed now? What's going on?
Yeah. Um,
Too much bad mojo juju.
I have a well, had, I guess he's passed away now, but there was a family friend of mine. He was actually, I mean, take it for what it's worth, but he was an exorcist for the Catholic Church.
Oh.
Yeah.
Mm.
And like I was a Catholic, so like I mean, like him and I could talk basically, right? He was saying that as far as he can tell, having done all the exorcisms that he has, and he would never tell me um, specifics of anything ever.
Mm.
And his reasoning is once it's in your brain, the things that happen in it, you become more susceptible to being
Mhm. Mhm.
possessed. So he would never tell me like specific details or anything, right? So all we have to
It's
go
like your
on is
mind
like,
is a Ouija board.
yeah, all we have to go on is The Exorcist, and you know what I mean, The Exorcism of Emily Rose, and you know what I mean, like that kind of stuff. And
Mhm.
um,
Mhm.
yeah, just it's very bizarre because like once it's in your head, it's in your head,
Mhm.
and so I don't know if that's like a doorway in, or if it's more like a mental thing where you're just like, well, I know and I remember, I know this stuff now. Oh my God, maybe this is what it is, you know?
Mhm.
It's very, very interesting. But yeah, you're right though, because like they always talk about um, whatever's possessing the demons always take on like the role of a child.
Mhm.
So like to I guess garner trust or whatever it is. Like
Mhm.
you always trust the kid unless you've seen the movie Good Son. You don't trust any kids. Never trust Macaulay. Never trust young Macaulay Culkin.
Yeah. No, yeah. Yeah.
Sorry. Like my mind goes and it's just like there's so many things, there's so many little nuances to this. It's crazy.
Mhm.
Right.
What do you think, Carl?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. I think that we have some amazing things that are going to be coming for all of you
Mhm.
in 2023. It's going to be a blast. So many
Mhm.
different topics, so many different avenues that we can go down. And yeah, it's just going to be
And
absolutely insane.
it's not even these topics. Like the amount of topics I got in my
Yeah.
brain, the amount of topics you got, and you know what I mean? Like
Right. Yeah.
All three of us have lists, and somehow we need to consolidate it into one.
2037 when YouTube is virtual through glasses or something.
Right.
Oh
Yep.
boy.
We'll have 3D pictures for you and everything.
You right.
You'll be able to smell the ghosts,
Yeah,
let
exactly right.
alone see them.
Smells like peanut
So,
butter.
what a preview that we have for this year, you guys. Thank you for joining us in hearing what the three of us have to share with you today. We're going to close out here by kicking out our plug for our sponsor, Rogue Energy. You can find, I think we'll have a banner or something at some point for their website down there. OLE, yeah, if you use OLE pods, oh, there he is. Yay! Trying to remember it without seeing it is hard, you guys.
Yep.
So if you want to check out rogueenergy.com there, use our promo code OLEPODS. You can get 10% off of your order. I don't know if these guys have tried theirs yet, but I have been enjoying my Rocket Pop Rogue Energy. I unfortunately used all of it, so I don't know what Andre and I are going to do on the 4th, except for cry when we start watching our show at 3 a.m. So again, if you want to get in on your Rogue Energy, go to rogueenergy.com, OLE pods for 10% off of your order. That being said, let's start getting into where you can find these handsome gentlemen. Carl, where can we find you on social media?
The link is going to be available for you somewhere in this area. It is a link tree, linktr.ee/KARL/KARUFEL, Linktree/Karl Karafel.
That almost sounds like a cute little ditty that you could just
Yeah.
put under a beat and just be like,
If I can find one, I'll put one in here right now. No.
yes. And Alex, if we're wanting to find you on social media, where can we find you?
That's great. I still don't really have anything, which is awful, I know. But I am on YouTube under Werewolf at the Movies. I also have another channel, but it's kind of silent at the moment. But it's Waichi Canon. We'll throw that in there too. But yeah.
It's because ParaMindful stole all of your attention.
And you know what? That's what it is. Like I have too many hobbies. Just not enough time. Not enough time.
And if you're wanting to follow a Melball on social media, you can find me on Twitter at Collins Melball, and you can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Melball Collins. You can also find me counting down all my stuff. You can find me on YouTube with my other channel, Andre and Melball's Wrestling Talks, where we're talking all things Joshi wrestling. By the time this video comes out, we should have our next episode where Andre and I are reviewing the amazing December 29th Queendom show. Had some pretty amazing results. I was actually messaging these two while I was watching it. I even brought out the Holy Hannah Montana to describe what it was I was seeing. That should tell you it was heckin' amazing.
Holy Hannah Montana.
And of course,
something kicking some or other.
What's that?
It was Holy Hannah Montana. She's kicking somebody, or I was like,
Oh
I
yeah,
don't
they were
know
kicking the
Montana.
holy heckin' crap out of each other.
That's
It was
right, yeah.
fantastic. I watched one girl get suplexed off an entrance ramp into the crowd. It was fantastic. Reckless, but fantastic. I'm pretty sure someone ate his shoe. Moving on, though. So from here, we'll also add in all of our OLE stuff into the description box below so that Alex doesn't have to add it into our editing.
Thank you.
But that being said, I am Melball Collins. Down there is Karl Karafel. Over here is Alex. I don't know where I'm pointing.
No
We're
last
just pointing.
name? My last
And
name
I'm
is
going to
different.
shout out the beautiful Astrid Pizarro, who's making so many leaps and bounds in her following.
What's that too?
Congratulations, Astrid. Way to clear out the year. And that being said, we will see you next time. Keep it spooky.